Hey everybody, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It is Monday again, and we are going to be reading The Nutcracker by E.T.A. Hoffman. And we are in a chapter called Toyland. If you'll remember, at the end of the last chapter, the Nutcracker had slayed his enemy, the King of the Mice. Here's the picture. And he invited Marie to go with him. So here is what happens next. Toyland. I'm sure none of you would have hesitated for a moment to go with the good Nutcracker, who had always shown himself to have such a golden heart. Marie did it all the more willingly because she knew she had a right to his gratitude. I will go with you, dear Mr. Drosselmeyer, Marie assured him, but we can't go very far away. And we can't be away very long because, you know, I still haven't had any sleep yet. Then we'll go by the shortest route, said Nutcracker, although it is also the most difficult. He began to march across the floor, and Marie followed until he stopped in front of a big old wardrobe. Marie was surprised to see that, although the doors of this wardrobe were usually shut, they were now wide open. She could see her father's traveling cloak of fox fur hanging in the front. Here's a picture of the wardrobe. Let's see, there we are. And it looks like he's going up the stairs. Nutcracker climbed deftly up this cloak, clinging to the edging and seizing hold of the long tassel that fastened to the back of it. He gave this tassel a tug, and a pretty ladder of cedar wood fell quickly down through one of the armholes of the cloak. Miss Stellbaum, step on that ladder, if you will be so kind, said Nutcracker. Marie did so. As soon as she climbed up through the armhole and began to look out at the neck, a dazzling light came pouring over her, and she found herself standing on a lovely, sweet-scented meadow that sparkled as if it were flowering with rich gems. We are now in Candy Meadow, said Nutcracker. Next we will pass through that gate over there. Marie looked up and saw a beautiful gateway on the meadow only a few steps away. It seemed to be made of white, brown, and purple-colored marble. But when she came closer, she saw that it was made of baked sugar, almonds, and raisins, which, as Nutcracker said as they were going through it, was the reason it was called the Almond and Raisin Gate. On a gallery above, made of barley sugar, 6 monkeys dressed in red doublets were playing rousing music on brass instruments. Marie observed that she was walking along on what seemed to be a multicolored marble pavement, which, however, was really a mosaic of hard candies. Presently, the sweetest of odors, like that of an orange grove in full bloom, came wafting about her, emanating from a little forest that bordered both sides of the path. There was such a glitter and sparkle lighting up the dark foliage that she could see gold and silver fruits hanging then on the multi-tinted branches of the trees. These branches were all decorated with ribbons and bunches of flowers, like members of a wedding party. The gold leaf and silver tinsel fruits and foliage rustled and tinkled like beautiful music, to which the sparkling lights could not help dancing. How wonderful this is, cried Marie, enraptured. This is Christmas Forest, dear mademoiselle, said Nutcracker. Ah, said Marie, if only I could stay here a little while. Nutcracker clapped his hands, and immediately there arrived a troop of shepherds and shepherdesses, as well as hunters and huntresses, all of whom were so white and delicate that you would have thought that they were made of pure sugar. Marie had glimpsed them before, while they were walking about in the trees. They produced a fine gold reclining chair, laid a white satin cushion upon it, and courteously invited Marie to take a seat. As soon as she did so, the shepherds and shepherdesses performed a pretty ballet before her, while the hunters and huntresses played music on their horns. All of a sudden, as if by a signal, they disappeared into the undergrowth. Please forgive me for the poor style in which this dance was executed, dear Mademoiselle Stahlbaum, said Nutcracker. These people all belong to our wire ballet company, and they can only repeat the same motions over and over again. Shouldn't we walk on a little farther? Oh, it was really all very beautiful, and I'm terribly pleased with everything, said Marie, as she stood up and followed Nutcracker. They walked by the side of a gently rippling brook, which seemed to be the source of the delicate scent that filled the forest. "This is Orangewater Brook," said Nutcracker. "Except for its sweet scent, it is nowhere as fine as the Lemonade River, a beautiful broad stream that flows, just like this one, into the almond milk sea." Marie soon heard a louder splashing and rushing, and saw the Lemonade River itself, which went rolling along in waves of a pale yellow, between banks covered with grass that shone like green jewels. A remarkable freshness and coolness, strengthening the heart and spirit, exhaled from this fine river. Not far off, a dark yellow stream crept sluggishly along, giving out another delicious aroma. On its banks, a number of pretty children sat angling for fat fish that they ate as soon as they caught them. These fish were shaped like hazelnuts, as Marie saw when she came closer. A short distance farther along the banks of this smaller, slower stream stood a nice village. The church, the parsonage, the barns, and the houses were all dark brown with gilt roofs. Many of the walls looked as if they were plastered over with lemon peel and shelled almonds. "This village is Gingerthorpe-on-the-Honey," said Nutcracker. "It's famous for the good looks of its inhabitants, but they are very short-tempered people because they suffer so much from toothache. We won't go there at present." Just then, Marie caught sight of another small town where the houses were fashioned in all sorts of lovely colors. Nutcracker led the way into this town. Marie heard sounds of bustle and merriment, and soon she saw thousands of little people unloading a multitude of wagons that had been drawn up in the marketplace. What they were unloading looked like packages of colored paper and blocks of chocolate. "This is Bonbonville," Nutcracker said. "A diplomatic corps has just arrived jointly from Paperland and the King of Chocolate. These poor people of Bonbonville have lately been threatened by the Admiral's forces, so they are using the colored wrapping supplied by Paperland to protect their houses. And they are also building fortifications with the fine blocks that the Chocolate King has sent them. But, dearest mademoiselle, enough of these small towns. Let us be off to the capital." He moved quickly onward, and Marie followed him, full of anticipation. Soon a rosy vapor appeared, suffusing everything with soft splendor. She saw that this mist was the reflection from a huge, shining, rose-red body of water, which rippled before them in pinkish wavelets. Upon this delightful water, lovely swans were floating, white and silver, with collars of gold. As if competing with each other, the swans sang in turn, each song more beautiful than the last. In time to this music, schools of fish swirled in the rosy ripples, glittering like diamonds. "Oh," cried Marie, extremely excited, "this must be the lake that Godfather Drosselmeyer was going to make for me, and I must be the girl who gets to play with the swans." Nutcracker laughed in a scornful manner that Marie had never heard from him before. He said, "My uncle could never make something like this. You yourself would have a better chance of accomplishing such a feat. But never mind, why don't we go sailing over Lake Rosa to our capital city?" The capital. The Nutcracker clapped his little hands again, and the waves of Lake Rosa began to sound louder and to splash higher. Marie saw that a shell-shaped chariot of the waves, built from multicolored flashing gemstones, was approaching from the distance, drawn by two dolphins with skins of gold. 12 dark little boys jumped to the land, all of them wearing headdresses and doublets made of hummingbirds' feathers woven together. Their feet gliding gently along the water's surface, they carried first Marie and then the Nutcracker into the chariot, which immediately began to cross the lake. Oh, it was lovely for Marie, gliding over the waters in that shell-shaped chariot, with rosy perfume filling her nostrils and pink waves lapping lightly at the boat. The two golden-skinned dolphins cleared their blowholes and sent crystalline fountains high in the air. These formed gleaming rainbows as they fell. As these dolphins swam together, they sang in fine, silvery voices. "Who glides upon the lake so rosy? A fairy, sing wavelets, bim bim. Little fishes, sim sim. Little swans, swash swa. Little golden birds, tra ra. Waves and tide, you'd best get busy. Tipple and tap and mutter. Ripple and swell and flutter. For a fairy on you now reposes, lying on a billow of roses. So swirl and whoosh and rush. Bring her to us, to us." The 12 little boys who now stood at the back of the chariot seemed offended by this song. They shook the long palm leaves that they were holding so that the fronds clattered and rattled together. Then they stamped their feet to a new rhythm and sang, Clap and clip and clap, up and back. Our voices won't be drowned, so flee, little fishes, and flee, slender swans. Our shell boat's bearing down. Clip and clap, or clap and clip and clap, up and back. Those boys are quite amusing fellows, Nutcracker conceded, though he was obviously a bit annoyed. But you see, they have a way of getting the whole lake in an uproar. Both water and air were now churning with the deafening din of otherworldly voices. Marie went on gazing into the rosy perfumed waves. On each wave, a pretty girl's face smiled back at her. "Oh, look at Princess Pirlipat," she cried, clapping her hands with joy. "Just look at her, dear Mr. Drosselmeyer. There's Princess Pirlipat under the water, smiling at me so sweetly." Nutcracker sighed sorrowfully. "My dearest Mademoiselle Stahlbaum, that isn't Princess Pirlipat. It is you, and always you, whom you see smiling up from these rosy waves." Marie pulled her head back quickly, closed her eyes as tightly as she could, and felt extremely embarrassed. At that very moment, the 12 little boys lifted her out of the chariot and set her on the shore. She found herself in a small thicket that was nearly as beautiful as Christmas forest. So much did everything glitter and sparkle in it. The fruit on the trees amazed her, not just because of its unusual colors, but also because of its delicious perfume. "Ah," said Nutcracker, "here we are in Jelly and Jam Grove. You see, over there lies the capital." How can I begin, dear children, to describe the beauty and richness of the city that unfolded before Marie as she crossed a flowery plain? Not only were there walls and towers shining in gorgeous colors, but the very shapes of the buildings were like nothing ever seen before on earth. Instead of roofs, the houses were topped with jeweled crowns, while the towers were finely sculpted and patterned with intertwined leaves. As Marie and Nutcracker passed through the gateway, which was made of macaroons and sugared fruits, a troop of silver soldiers saluted them. Then a small man in a brocade robe threw his arms around Nutcracker's neck, saying, "Welcome, dear prince, welcome to Sweettown." And that is where we're going to end for today. So they've arrived at the capital, which is called Sweettown. Fun. Okay, well, we'll continue on tomorrow. You guys have a great night. Bye.